Hello, my name is Julie Jones. I am a business coach and sales strategist. And today I am here to talk to you about how to sell, how to have a sales conversation without explaining what you do. Because let's be honest, most people are absolute garbage at explaining what they do. Like, think about it. If I asked you right now to explain what you do, you would probably give me some like very long-winded, vague description of what you do, or you'd oversimplify it, right? Either way, the person you're talking to probably still has no idea what you do. This is one of the biggest problems most business owners have. And it is one of the things that people think you need to have nailed. Like there are so many workshops and courses and books about how to like serve an elevator pitch, right? Or how to explain what you do, how to craft this like perfect message that makes you stand out and all this stuff. And while, yeah, like that's a good thing, it's a good thing to know how to explain what you do. It also is totally unrealistic to expect that we're going to meet somebody and within a few moments of meeting them, we're going to be like totally sold on what they do, right? Or really understanding what they do, especially as service-based business owners. And so I want to talk to you today about how to have a sales conversation with somebody, how to do a discovery call with somebody without getting like caught up in explaining what you do. I'm going to tell you why it is not important for you to explain what you do, and I'm going to give you a different method. Okay. I was having this conversation just yesterday about discovery calls. And I was asked, like, how do I explain what I do to the person I'm on a call with? And the question was asked just like, so how are you explaining what you do these days? That's like what was said. And I thought about it for a minute and I was like, I can't even answer that question. And as I was thinking about it, I was like, I can't answer that question because I actually don't explain what I do. And it got me thinking it's been like a really, really long time since I've actually explained what I do on a sales call. So I was starting to think about like, why is that? Most of my prospects or potential clients, whatever you want to call them, come to like they book a call with me. They come to a call with context already for what I do based on the fact that 9 out of 10 people have been personally referred by a friend, by a colleague, by a past client of mine. So like they have a strong sense or they've had somebody else kind of like sell them on me a little bit already. Or they were referred to me with zero context. They went and checked me out on Instagram or went and browse through my website or listen to a few videos or a workshop or something like that. So a lot of people, like I have a lot of opportunities for people to like get to know me online a little bit before we jump on a call together, but that doesn't always happen. Sometimes I do have somebody who truly is like coming in blind, has no context for what I do. But even when they are those people, even when they're the like, I have no idea how I ended up here type people, I still don't really ever have to explain what I do. And this is because selling in the year right now is 2025, right? Selling in 2025 is not about me and me explaining what I do. And this is like a very important foundation to understand if you're going to be successful in sales conversations. Back in the day, like I think like 1950s, 1960s, the predominant sales approach was very much like, why us? It was all about, educating your prospect by talking about and like proving your credibility really by talking about your products, your strengths as a business, your history, like all of this was attempting to persuade your prospective client or customer through like proving credibility, right? And value was built for your product or your service just based on like, why us? Like, why should you choose us, right? Some people still do this, but it doesn't work. It's not super effective in 2025 because there's so much information readily available to people already. Okay. So people are not really like, there are so many back in the 50s, back in the 60s, you needed that information from the business. You needed the business to tell you why them, because you couldn't just go and search online for 20 different businesses who all do the same thing, right? You couldn't go vet products online. You weren't like scrolling through Amazon, um, comparing 800 different models of the same product, right? The market has changed so much. So try that technique now, and it's not super compelling, right? People don't care about why they care about why, like they care about themselves. What's in it for me, right? So as our sales practices started to evolve in the 80s and the 90s, the why us was no longer super effective as information started to spread. And now like the pain point marketing became really popular. So this was turning the focus around onto the client, which is still how it is now, right? It's all about you as the buyer, but it was all about figuring out what makes you tick. What's your pain point, right? And why our solution is the best one. So it still was a little bit about why us, right? But now it's not just why us, it's about why this solution is the one you want. And this is the approach most people still use today. Like this is probably what you're doing. You're trying to identify where somebody's frustration is. And when I teach sales, this is part of it because you do need to be informed about what is frustrating to your potential client and what solutions they're looking for. However, most people are really pain focused and problem focused in their messaging. And this is a mistake for a couple different reasons. One of them, which is like I could do a whole other video on just this. One reason is because when you are using pain point marketing to attract people to your business, you're mostly attracting people who are stuck in the pain and not ready to make a buying decision yet. So we don't want to do that. We want to attract people who are already aware of their pain, already aware of what the problem is, and actively looking for a solution. And even better than that, we can attract people who aren't even thinking about their problems and their solutions at all, and are rather just looking for something that activates like a future version of them. Like it's almost like an identity activation. They see it and they're like, I don't know what that is, but I gotta have it. Like that is even better, right? Or they're like, this is the kind of person I want to become, and I know this will help me get there. Those are the best people. Those are like the most fun people to sell to, right? So this is one reason why you don't want to just be using pain point marketing, because the pain point, it just attracts people who are stuck in the pain and they're very hard to sell to. And so when you attract these people who are just stuck in their pain, now you're at a disadvantage because now you have to convince them to buy something. You have to convince them to now become a buyer, which they're not really. They're just kind of like in their pain cycle. And this approach that most people are still using, what you do basically, like I said before, is you're identifying what their frustration is. You're figuring out how to position your product or your service as the solution to their problem. And this is where I think sales gets a really like slimy rep, is because sometimes you are not the best solution for their problem. Sometimes what they're looking for in solving that problem is different than what you do. And so what has happened a lot of the time is sales reps will identify the problem and then they're just really good. They're spin doctors, right? They're really good at spinning the solution, presenting it as the solution to their problem, no matter what the problem is. And this practice caused a lot of people to lose faith in the sales process and has caused people to feel unsafe in the sales process. As a salesperson using this technique, no matter how good your intentions are, because most of us who are in service-based businesses, we're not spin doctors. We're not out here to try and manipulate people. But when you're using this technique, it can really easily feel manipulative. And when you're pitching basically why your solution is the best solution, people often feel that like they feel unsafe in that interaction. And so then they get defensive and they start spitting out objections or reasons why. And then you're now on the defense of their objections. And now you have to try and overcome those objections. You have to try and convince them. You feel like you have to try and convince them. You feel like you have to like come up with all this proof and like talk them into it. That interaction doesn't feel good for anybody, right? This is probably what you've been taught, and this is probably why you hate sales. And this is why a lot of people have sales resistance, because they have been sold to in this way, and it doesn't feel good on the receiving end. And so then they're like, I don't want to be that way, so I'm just going to avoid selling altogether, which then kills their business because you have to sell to make money, right? Like sales is it is like the crux of our business. Like we have to be good at sales or have a sales team that's good at sales in order to make money, right? Fortunately, there are better methods. People just don't really know what these methods are. And so when we think about when I think about sales and when I teach sales, I teach it in a strengths-based way. Every person was uniquely designed with different strengths, right? Different characteristics, different personality traits. And so to think that we can just plug into a one-size-fits-all sales approach is like bonkers. So the first thing I teach, and I'll link it below this video, is for you to figure out what your sales style is. You want to figure out, based on your personality, who you are, what kind of sales interactions feel really good for you. Because most of the time, what I find is they have sales resistance. I call it sales resistance. Whenever you're resistant to selling, whether it's because you think it's going to make you feel manipulative, you just don't know how to do it, you have had bad sales experiences as a consumer, whatever, we all have a certain level of sales resistance. For some of us, it's very low. Some of us, it's very high. No matter how high or how low your sales resistance is, when you figure out what your sales style is, you can stop trying to use all the strategies and tactics or whatever you want to call them that are built for somebody different than you. And when you start to lean into your strengths and you start to use sales strategies that feel really effortless and aligned for you, a lot of that sales resistance will just leave the room. You don't have to spend like 10 years in therapy or on coaching calls to like work through all this stuff creating the resistance. You can just actually focus your attention and your action, your energy on strategies that naturally feel good to you based on your personality type. Okay, so we don't need to change ourselves and our personality types to be good at sales, which is my biggest problem with most sales coaching programs, techniques, seminars. They're all kind of trying to teach you how to become really persuasive, teach you how to be a driver personality, teach you how to be super extroverted, teach you how to build rapport with people. Like those things can be helpful in a sales situation, but you do not need to change who you are to excel in sales. You just need to figure out what your sales style is first. So the first step you want to take the quiz, figure out what your sales style is. From there, once you figure out what your sales style is, you're going to get some recommendations for the types of sales strategies that are aligned for your sales style. This will give you a really good jumping off point of like the types of sales strategies as a service-based business owner that you can start to implement right away, and give you some really good action steps. The next thing we want to know is not only is sales highly individual, not only is it highly individual, but also a modern approach to sales is much more like consulting than telling, right? The focus is no longer just like, why us? And let me tell you about my product or my service or why my solution is better than these 800 other guys, right? But rather it is working as a consultant or a coach almost to help your prospect understand what change they're looking to make and why they want to make that change now. which shifts the focus away from us. This is why I don't ever have to explain what I do. I'm just focused on a few objectives in the conversation. So these are the questions. Some of these are actually questions that I ask, but these are the questions I'm looking to answer for myself in order to have enough information to figure out, is this person sitting across from me a good fit for my business? Because that is equally as important as, am I a good fit for their problem, solution, whatever that they're looking for, right? I am just as much a buyer as they are. And when I remember that I'm just as much a buyer as they are, it helps me stay out of that trap that a lot of people get in where they're like, I need clients, right? You don't need clients. You probably want clients, but you don't want clients who aren't a good fit for you. You want clients who are like your dreamboat clients who are a perfect fit for your business, right? And so we need to do some investigation. We need to approach this with curiosity to figure that out. But we also want to provide this person with a valuable exchange because that is ultimately what's going to sell them on whether or not they want to work with you. We want to lead them. Leadership is key here. We want to lead them through a valuable exchange. Okay. So some of the most important questions that we want to answer here are, what are their goals? So if I'm on a coaching call or a discovery call with somebody, I'm just like, tell me your top 3 business goals right now. If I were a life coach, I'd say top 3 life goals. If I were a relationship coach, top 3 relationship goals. If I were a chiropractor, top 3 health goals right now. Okay. Then we want to know, what have they tried to reach these goals? What are the things that they've done already? Because this gives me a lot of context for what I could consult with them on. I need to know, what have they tried? Have they done other coaching programs? Have they purchased courses? Have they gone to business school? Have they, like, where are they? Right? I need to know what they know because I'm not providing them with any value if I just tell them things they already know. And if I just suggest things they've already tried, I'm not providing them with any value. Why would they want to work with me? So I want to know, what are their goals? What have they tried? What's worked and what hasn't worked? So these are actually questions that I'm going to ask them point blank. I might have a little nuance in how I ask them based on what it is that they want support with. And then I want to find out, what are their challenges? And this is different than just trying to identify their pain point. This is like, what are the things they're really genuinely struggling with and looking for help with? And at that point, I can usually offer some advice, right? I can usually give them like, oh, I can see you've done this. Maybe you want to try this instead. Maybe this is the missing piece. Or have you thought about it this way? You know, oh, from my perspective, it looks like this is happening. Offering something of value to them, my perspective as an expert in my field is super valuable to them, right? And not only does it provide them with value, but it also positions me as having like kind of one up in the conversation. I'm now in a position of authority because I know something that they don't know and I'm willing to share that with them. And not in a like manipulative, weird, slimy way, but just in a sense of like, if you're buying something from somebody, it's because they know something you don't, right? And you're going to them because they have information that you want, or they have a strategy that you want, or they have a product that they've created that solves a problem in your life, right? So then I can kind of offer some consulting on that call. And the most important thing I want to establish with them is, why do they want this now? And so I might ask that before I do some consulting. I might ask that after. It just depends on the organic flow of the conversation. But somebody can want help with something and not be willing to get help now. And so I want to understand, why are they reaching out now? Like, why now? Why not 6 months ago? Why not 6 months from now? Like, is now the time? Why do they want help now? There's usually some sort of motivating factor around time. They have a child on the way. They want to get this dialed in. They've been waiting for so long and they finally hit a point where enough was enough, right? Like, you want to understand what their motivator is so that you can support them. And then the questions I'm asking internally are, do I want to help them? Just as much as they're assessing, do they want help from me? I'm assessing, do I want to help them? Does it seem like a fun person to work with or not? Does it seem like I actually genuinely can help them? There are times when somebody might come with problems that I'm like, I don't really solve these problems. Or these goals, I don't really know how to help them achieve these goals. Like maybe I do, but like it's not really my zone of genius. And I want to assess, would I rather refer this person out to somebody else who that is their zone of genius? Like that usually serves the client better, right? Or do I think I can help them and do I genuinely want to help them? And often that is the answer, yes, right? And then I want to be asking myself, what do I think would serve them best? Because in my business, I have multiple different ways of working with people. I don't necessarily offer them all of those ways. I'm, as an expert, assessing, are they more a fit for over here? Are they more a fit for over here? What is going to serve them best? I'm not letting them lead me. They didn't come to me to lead me. A lot of people make this mistake. They're like, here's all the options, you pick. And the person's like, I don't want to pick. I want you to pick. Have you ever been to a really fine dining restaurant? Like think about, okay, going to a fine dining restaurant where there are like very few options for what you can eat. And then you go to like a really low end chain restaurant like Cheesecake Factory, and there's like 16 pages of menu items. They're two different business models, but one of those business models is elevated, right? The experience that you're going to have in a fine dining restaurant where you may not even have a choice. There might just be like a prefix chef's menu. Like you go in, you're just like guided through the process. It feels awesome. If you've ever had that, if you've never had that kind of dining experience, go have one of those kind of dining experiences simply for research of what it feels like to be a consumer in that environment. It feels so good to be led and to not have to make any decisions. Like, what a luxury. What a luxury. Just to be like, here's what's best for you based on our knowledge as experts, right? Our clients they want that experience. We think that by giving people lots of options and letting them choose, like we're doing them a favor. That is often not the case. They show up and they're like, I want you to tell me where I should go. All right. So we want to be assessing what would serve this person best, and we want to be leading them. And all of these questions give me everything I need to know to be able to offer valuable counsel during this interaction and determine if we're going to be a good fit. And then it also helps me stay one up in the conversation. Again, not from a like weird manipulative place, but just in the sense that energetically I can hold my own because there's no neediness for their business. The second that you need the sale, the second that you need clients, you put yourself in a disadvantage. And this disadvantage happens because your client can feel that energy exchange and they will it's like the energy starts to get really unstable. They feel unsafe. You may not know it, but your body language, your tone of voice, the way that you're saying things, it will communicate to them that they need to go into a fight or flight mode. Your pitch is going to land in their little reptilian brain and they're going to go running for the hills, or they're going to spew out a whole bunch of weird objections, or they're going to give you lots of like unstable emotional things because they are not going to feel safe. And somebody is not going to buy from you if they don't feel safe. So when we establish that this is a good fit, then I simply just like make a quick agreement with this person around the terms of the partnership. Just like, hey, I might even ask them, hey, I might say to them, this might be the only thing I say to them about what I do. I might say, I typically work with people on a 3-month commitment. Okay. We're going to meet probably every other week. However, that may change based on what their needs are. Maybe we meet weekly. Maybe we meet once a month, whatever. Let's say we're going to meet. I'm going to recommend for them that we meet every other week for 3 months. And then I ask them, instead of trying to sell them on at the end of 3 months, you're going to feel like this, because that again is going to feel really unsafe to them. They're going to be like, oh, I'm being pitched to, and they're going to run for the hills. Instead of doing that, I ask them, what would feel super successful for you 3 months from now? If we're 3 months from now and you're like, I am so glad I worked with Julie. I'm so glad I bought that program. I'm so glad I enrolled in this because now I'm where? Like, what would you feel really successful if we accomplished in that 3 month time? And then they basically pitch to me what they want to work on with me. And then I'm assessing, do I feel like that's realistic or not? Because sometimes people will be like, tell me they will shoot for the moon. And I'm like, I love that vision for you. And also, let's come down to earth and say that I think probably in 90 days, this is realistic. But would it feel really good to you if we only got that accomplished? And more times than not, they will say, yeah, that would feel awesome. And then I'll say, and we'll keep in mind that these are also goals. So if we move faster, like if you're doing a tremendous amount of work on your end behind the scenes off our coaching calls, like we can totally move faster. And if that's the case, I know what your other goals are. So how's that sound? And they're like, that sounds great. And then basically from there is just establishing the terms of the partnership. Okay, here's the options. We can do a monthly option. We can do a one-time investment. Which do you prefer? What does that look like? As soon as we go through that, the sale has been made, right? And then I just let them know what the follow-up or what it's going to look like after that. Very simple. Never in there am I explaining, here's what I do and here's how I'm going to do it for you. If I'm selling a program, I will like make sure they understand the program, but I'm make sure to connect with them first and to learn all these things about them first. And I'm not pitching my program as the solution to their problem. I'm just saying, here's what I would recommend for you. Here's what it looks like. Here's the details of it that you need to know. Do you have any questions? And then again, I turn it over to them to ask questions. If they ask a question, I'm going to answer their questions with questions most of the time, because this is how you can let somebody feel like they're being heard, but you can also maintain control of the interaction. It's not in an ambiguous way that I'm answering their questions. I'm not like skirting the questions, but I may answer the question and then I'll follow it up with asking them a really good question, maybe about why they wanted to know the answer to that, or if they have concerns about something. That way I can keep directing the conversation. Makes sense? So really the key pieces here are that when you're genuinely curious to connect with your prospect, like when you're genuinely curious to know, am I a good fit for them? Are they a good fit for me? What's going on with them? What have they tried? Why now? And you can lead them through a conversation with confidence. And you can do it in a way that works for your personality. You don't feel like you're trying to be a salesperson, right? And you can counsel them or consult with them and provide actual value for them in that interaction. And you can do all of this with very little attachment or resistance. You're going to set yourself up for success. You don't need to explain what you do. You don't need to manipulate their pain. You don't need to become somebody you're not. This is really exactly what I teach my clients how to do. So if you're in this place right now where you feel like sales is a big hiccup in your business, like it's just like the thing that you can't overcome, or you're constantly thinking like, I need new clients. I don't know how to get them. I don't know where they are. I don't know how to convert them. Like you have all of the sales stuff going on, or maybe you're really good at connecting with people, but you're just like not great at actually converting them into clients. Maybe you have no idea how to go get leads, but once they're in the door, you're good at converting them to clients. Like you may struggle with one element of a sales system, not necessarily all of them, or you may be struggling with the whole thing. I want to invite you to book a call with me. I'd be happy to go through this process that I just taught you today with you. to find out what's going on, what you've tried, see if we'd be a good fit to work together, um, see if this is actually, in fact, the problem that you're having in your business, so that you can also learn how to serve your clients better by becoming the kind of salesperson that they need, the kind of salesperson that has expertise and experience, that can provide them with good counsel, good advice, good recommendations, whatever industry you're in. Because not knowing how to sell to people not only costs you clients and costs you money, but it also prevents you from serving and guiding those people who are ready. They're ready. They're reaching out to you, right? Or maybe they don't know how to find you, but they're ready to reach better outcomes in their lives, right? So if that's something you're interested in having a conversation about, you can click the link below, book a call. We'll have a brief chat where we'll just establish all of these things that we talked about, see if we're a good fit to work together and what it would look like to do so. Thank you for watching all the way to the end. I'll see you next time.